Hello, my name is Hiro Nakatsuchi. Do you have an illness that doctors cannot cure? I am going to tell you that God can cure you of any illness. I know you may be skeptical of my claim. This is not an info commercial where a famous doctor tells you that he has the secrets to living longer. Eventually, after listening to an hour of basic nutrition, he finally tells you you need to buy his special formula for a special price today. My advice is free to anyone who is willing to listen. Let me give you a short history of myself. I grew up with the teachings of the Tenrikyo religion. My father became a reverend of a small church consisting mostly of family members, and my mother took over as reverend when he passed away. All through my youth, I was told that Tenrikyo people could cure others of illnesses. I remember my mother visiting elderly Japanese who were ill and praying for them. I do not recall any miracles she performed, but I remember how she sometimes got excited when they improved a little. My sister-in-law passed away from cancer before she was 30. No prayers saved her. My father, before his yearly pilgrimage to our holy city in Japan, succumbed to colon cancer at the age of 72. I remember the bishop of our North American church even prayed for him, but he was not saved. As you can see from my past history, I am not confident that Tenrikyo people could save others from illnesses. And I wondered why in our early stages of our religion, so many people were cured and converted to our religion. Where are these miracles today? In the Tenrikyo religion, unlike other major religions that have a large compilation of ancient books to study, there's only one book in our religion that we agree is from God. This made it very easy for me to do research. This compilation of over 1,000 verses is said to be from God. This is the scripture I have studied extensively, and from the information derived have come to the conclusion that God can heal you from any illness. I apologize for the poor presentation, as I am not very competent with the computer and internet. I hope someone can help me someday with this, but for now, please scroll through the written documents with me as I tell you how God can heal you from any illness. Do you have an illness that doctors and medicine cannot cure? God will heal you. In our scripture, God tells us, however serious an illness will become, I never say that it will not be cured. In the Bible, Jesus and his disciples were said to have healed the sick. In the beginning of our religion, thousands of people were cured of their illness. But where are the miracles now? What are the ingredients to make these miracles happen now? Does this require believing in God and having faith? Does it require making donations or making a pilgrimage to our holy site? The following is from the Tenrikyo scriptures. The saving of those whom doctors are unable to save is the foundation of the path. You tell them the teachings, they listen, and they are healed. God will heal you if you understand the soul. Why would God heal you if you understand the soul? Understanding the soul uncovers why we suffer or have joy. By understanding the mechanism of the soul, it gives us the opportunity to attain joy by our own efforts. God descended from heaven to teach us about the soul and how to live the joyous life, with everyone helping each other. Why is there suffering? Why are some people afflicted with cancer? Why do people suffer from diseases? Why do people get into accidents? Why do I have these intense headaches? Why am I depressed? Why do bad people appear in our lives? Why do some people appear to have joy? And Are these all random events or planned by God? God tells us that these events are not random or created by God. God has been a spectator since the creation of mankind. Though until now, God has never come out into the open, no matter what unpleasant occurrences when experienced. God tells us that it is our own soul that brings upon joy or suffering to us. Above all else, guard your soul, for everything you do flows from it. God sees our ominous future by looking at what our souls have collected. God tells us that we have all sinned and tells us that we do not understand the soul. The first verse of our most sacred scripture begins with, "Looking all over the world and through all ages, I find no one who understands the soul." God tells us that it is our soul that monitors our actions by collecting and storing our merits and demerits, and it eventually releases them as joy or suffering back to us. We reap what we have sown. But some people will say that they cannot remember having sold evil, yet they suffer. Others will arrogantly brag that they have done evil, yet they do not suffer. It is as if God places a wall in front of us by the prolonged lapse of time between cause and effect. We cannot see what fates exist around the corner. This lapse of time between cause and effect often extends into our previous and next lifetimes. We are talking about the concept of reincarnation, where our memories are erased upon our death, but our pattern of thoughts and our fates are saved to be manifested later in our next lifetime. What makes this possible? Enter or exit the soul. What is the soul? The soul has been called the heart or the spirit. Scientists have not yet located and verified the existence of the soul in our bodies, but many of us believe that it exists somewhere in our bodies. We believe that the soul may be composed of energies, which may explain why it is so difficult to identify and locate in our bodies. God tells us that our souls make up who we are, and our bodies are temporary dwellings borrowed from God, that our souls utilize to seek true joy. Our physical bodies eventually decay, but our souls continue for eternity. Metaphorically, our souls are like little suitcases that contain our pattern of thoughts and our fate, exiting our bodies at death and entering our new bodies before birth. The pattern of thoughts we have can be good or bad. See figure 1 for what are evil thoughts. By what mechanism does the soul operate? Upon entering our developing bodies, the soul programs our minds with our previous thought patterns from our past life. See figure 2. There are no surprises to what thought patterns our bodies receive from our souls. We have the same patterns of thoughts that we had acted upon in our past life. For example, if we succumb to greed in our past life, we have the same thoughts of greed in this lifetime. The same neural pathways of greed are reestablished. One can say that our souls, upon entering our bodies, create and restore our own individualized minds. The soul also contains our fates that were created by acting on our good or evil thoughts. These fates surrounding the soul are eventually released back to us as joy or suffering. We reap what we have sown. For example, if we have acted upon the thought of greed in the past, the soul will bring upon suffering and obstacles back to us to remind us of these thoughts we had acted upon. One can say that our fates are closely associated with our current neural pathways, since it is these same thoughts that we had acted upon in the past. How do we know we have evil thoughts in our minds? One may conclude that if one does not have obstacles or sufferings that appear, one may not have evil thoughts. But this is not always reliable, since the lapse of time between cause and effect may be prolonged. These thoughts, or these negative thoughts, often bring upon an emotion or temptation. For example, when we have the thought of arrogance, often an emotion of anger will arise. Temptation appears when we have the thought of greed or self-love in our minds. The presence of these negative emotions or feelings are telltale signs that we have evil thoughts in our minds. What do we do when anger or temptation arises from these negative thoughts? Most people will direct their anger or temptation at what appears to be the source, which could be a co-worker, stranger, spouse, circumstance, or even God. But if we understand the soul, we acknowledge that it is our own soul that brings upon these challenges or fates. These obstacles are only messengers of our souls. Our efforts will be directed to calm our minds and ponder our evil thoughts. Therefore, not acting upon what emotions were elicited by them. By this process, the neural pathway of the evil thoughts become less prominent, and the emotions they elicit will also decrease. This is how we gradually eliminate our evil thoughts. See Figure 3. Eventually, by this process of not acting on our evil thoughts, especially when our soul manifests sufferings, we can purify both our minds and our souls, where only positive thoughts emerge from our minds and joy flows from our souls. See Figure 4. What happens when we act on our evil thoughts? When we act on our evil thoughts, we cause suffering to others, and more evil thoughts are created in our own minds. The neural pathway for these thoughts becomes stronger, and the emotions they elicit become stronger to resist. This causes us to continually act upon our evil thoughts, causing more demerits, which our soul collects. The soul eventually releases these demerits as fate. The cycle of suffering will continue until we understand the soul. In summary, it is our evil thoughts we must remove from our minds. God tells us there is no one who is evil. It is only because there are paths of the mistaken mind. These paths are the thoughts of greed, arrogance, regret, and self-love. When we take action on these thoughts, they lead to our suffering. This is why we need to understand the soul and what it does. God is not on the sidelines anymore, but will begin to work to have the world understand the soul. God tells us in our sacred book, "The sick must not be left to suffer. I trust none of you will leave the sick to suffer. Those whom doctors consider to be beyond their help will be merely left to die. Saving such people is called the basis for the teaching." The healing of the body is of primary concern when we are sick. Most of us will give up all our material wealth in order to be healthy again. It is from this perspective of health that God will heal you from any illness if you truly understand the soul. God grants us the blessing of healing in order to have us understand the soul and begin the process of purifying our minds of greed, arrogance, regret, and self-love. By this process, we can prevent any illness or suffering in the future by our own efforts. God will heal you if you understand the soul. The following is the understanding of the Ofudasaki to spread God's truth. You can Take a look at my website, heavenstruth.com, to read on how